Before they settled on Galadriel being the narrator, the voice of Gandalf was considered for the prologue. This version of the prologue could have completely shifted the tone in the very beginning of the saga. Ian McKellen's epic, relaxing baritone summons the image of an old man at the hearth, recounting legends to a cozy circle of listeners. Conversely, the voice of Cate Blanchett's Galadriel not only radiates power and urgency, but also both disdain and respect for Sauron. Ultimately, Galadriel was the better choice, especially considering where she fits into the story. While Gandalf's baritone is classic fantasy, Galadriel's haunting tone is more fitting for a turn-of-the-century film saga that redefined the genre. Have you ever wondered why Sauron is holding a dagger in the prologue scene when Galadriel speaks of the One Ring? As it turns out, they originally intended to reveal how exactly Sauron forges the dreaded artifact by stabbing liquid metal in his hand with a dagger and the gold forming on his finger. In this case, it may have been a mistake to leave this out. This would have been the most fantastical and memorable scene in the intro, a dynamic reveal of how magic works in this world, and one of the most pivotal events in the history of Middle-earth. After Merry and Pippin set off Gandalf's fireworks, earning a scolding from the wizard, the two hobbits pay their debts to society by washing dishes. During this punishment, Merry and Pippin actually laugh and mess around with Gandalf as they watch Bilbo's birthday party. This may seem like a small change, but it's actually a big step in establishing the Fellowship's chemistry early on. Rather than an old curmudgeon, Gandalf would have come off more as a concerned, albeit irritated, friend. Later in the trilogy, when Frodo first hops on Gandalf's cart, there's a deleted scene where Gandalf teaches him Sindarin, the language of the elves. This would have cleverly foreshadowed the latter parts of the film, when the ring-bearer must keep company with elves to complete his mission. Moreover, it would have laid more context for Frodo's eventual fate as the scholar and historian who actually writes the Lord of the Rings and universe, an underexplored part of his character in the movies. During the montage where the Fellowship travels out of Rivendell, Gandalf slips on a hill but is caught by Legolas. The wizard then grumbles to the elf, "Blast! Why did the Valis send me here in this old man's body?" This would have been the only actual mention of the Vala in the dialogue of the first movie. That said, deleting this scene may have been the right call. The movies leave behind more than enough clues about Gandalf's true godlike nature. Also, this scene could have implied that Legolas actually knows Gandalf is a Maya, which would make no sense later in the saga, as the Fellowship clearly has no idea what Gandalf really is. While holding the cloven horn of Boromir, Faramir thinks back to the last time he saw his now-fallen brother before Boromir left for Rivendell. This scene provides context for why Boromir was beloved by his family and his people, as well as how Denethor treated his sons. It's easily one of the most important scenes left on the cutting room floor. Apart from allowing us to know Boromir a little better, it would have been a warm reminder of the first member of the Fellowship who gave his life to protect Frodo and the One Ring. After the Ents attack Isengard and flood the valley, Merry and Pippin explore Saruman's kitchen, where they find a stash of Longbottom leaf from South Farthing in the Shire. It's played for laughs, but crucially, this scene actually foreshadows the Scouring of the Shire at the end of the saga, establishing that Saruman had visited the Hobbit's hometown. In addition, Saruman's stash would have raised questions about how the White Wizard scolds Gandalf about smoking the halfling's leaf. Ultimately, it was a good decision to put this back in the extended cut, even if the Scouring of the Shire was also deleted from the saga. When Faramir first sees the One Ring on Frodo's neck, he gets a vision of Frodo in the early stages of transforming into a golem-like creature, twisted by the influence of the dark artifact. Combined with Frodo's increasingly erratic behavior, this terrifying glimpse into the future would have hammered home how urgent it is for Frodo to reach Mount Doom. It would have also helped reconcile the saga's fantasy and horror elements. So, it's a pity it got cut from both the theatrical and extended versions of The Two Towers. Almost all the scenes where Haldir fights at Helm's Deep were originally shot for Arwen. They were right to cut these scenes, as they would have been confusing for several reasons. For starters, there's no reason for Arwen to be at the Battle of Helm's Deep. Also, if she was there, she should have joined the Fellowship afterward, which notably doesn't happen in Return of the King. Most importantly, Arwen joining the fray would have meant Aragorn wouldn't have to choose between saving Middle-earth and retreating with the love of his life. It may have been great seeing the future queen and king of the reunited kingdom fighting side by side, but it was the right decision to cut Arwen from Helm's Deep. During the Battle of Helm's Deep, Eowyn takes on and kills several Uruk-hai in the Glittering Caves. Had this made the cut, it would have undermined Eowyn later kicking the Witch King's ass in Return of the King. That moment would not have been as epic and surprising if we'd already seen Eowyn cutting through Mordor's elite, all while wearing a dress. The Lord of the Rings scrapped tons of material that depicted graphic violence, just to avoid a restricted rating in theaters. Many of these scenes happen in the last big fights, particularly at Pelennor Fields, outside of Minas Tirith. From decapitations to the many other horrors of war, these scenes would have given viewers a more visceral feel for what's at stake. That said, they would have garnered an R rating, and in turn, that might have derailed the saga's record-breaking box office success. In the very climax of the saga, Sauron's physical form actually manifests on the battlefield outside the gates of Mordor. He even crosses swords with Aragorn, the villain nearly winning until the One Ring is finally destroyed. It was a good decision to delete this scene, because it completely misses the point. Sauron needs the One Ring back in order to manifest on Middle-earth. So while Aragorn versus Sauron would have been epic, it also would have undermined an otherwise great finale. After the defeat of Sauron, Eowyn and Faramir get married in the epilogue of Return of the King. This was only recently revealed in a social media post by Miranda Otto, the actress who played Eowyn. It's a pity this was deleted, because it's a heartwarming scene that would have given two beloved characters the ending they deserve. After all, LOTR is about how the world of men banded together to prevent Sauron's return, so it would have been apt to show the future of arguably the two most crucial human side characters in the entire saga, alongside the fates of Gandalf, Aragorn, and hobbits. They initially planned to show Legolas back in the forest, and Gimli examining gems in the Glittering Caves. Though this may seem like a small omission, it would have meant that everyone in the Fellowship was accounted for in the ending. This may have been cut for runtime, but it feels like a waste to omit Legolas and Gimli moving on with their lives after such an epic adventure. This scrapped ending was glimpsed in the Fellowship of the Ring, when Frodo looks into Galadriel's mirror and sees the Shire being raided by Uruk-hai. What's interesting is that this is actually how the original novel by J.R.R. Tolkien ends, with the four hobbits returning home to find the Shire hasn't escaped the war at all. But this is one of those cases where Peter Jackson was right to cut even key parts of the source material. It certainly makes sense for remnants of Mordor's forces to cause havoc after the dust had settled, and it would allow the hobbits, now veteran adventurers, to show off how badass they've become. But in the end, doing the Scouring of the Shire after the happy ending of Return of the King would have been anticlimactic, undermining the message of hope at the very end of the saga. But what do you think? Can you think of any other important deleted scenes that would have changed everything in The Lord of the Rings? Tell us your thoughts in the comments, and keep watching Movie Recap Pro.